Hey, what's going on, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and it is the day following the initial release, essentially, of the Miami Dolphins' initial 53-man roster. And that means that I think it was at noon today, players could start be awarded via the waiver wire. And Miami was not awarded any recently released players on waivers, which means one of two things. Either they didn't try to claim any of these players, or a team with a higher waiver priority claimed the same player that they did. However, that doesn't mean that this team is potentially done adding players to the 53-man roster or to the practice squad, as we found out today. Now, as of recording this video, I don't have 100% confirmation that these signings are confirmed, but they are the reported moves from Wednesday. I'm going to have them all scrolling on the bottom as we briefly go through each one for today's video. So as you can see, I'm going to start with wide receiver Braylon Sanders, because adding Braylon Sanders to the practice squad seemed to be the plan all along once he was released. Yesterday, the Miami Dolphins only kept 5 receivers. So if injury does happen, Braylon Sanders is a guy that you might yet see contribute already in 2022 after a strong training camp, a strong preseason. Another fan favorite, I know there's a lot of people that are happy about this one, Verone McKinley, also signed to the practice squad. He was also another guy that, like, right when his signing was his release was announced, it was like the Dolphins' plan is to keep him on the practice squad. And that's essentially what happened right after he claimed waivers. Now, Eric Rowe continues to battle a minor injury, so maybe there's a chance we see a guy like McKinley elevated prior to week 1. My guess is that we don't. I actually see the keeping of McKinley on the practice squad more of the long-term play, because if you look at Eric Rowe's contract, he is an unrestricted free agent following this season. So I think McKinley is kept around to battle for that third safety next year behind Holland, behind Jones, with Eric Rowe's contract expiring after the 2022 season. Another one, a guy that I really wanted, Cameron Goode, announced to the practice squad. I kind of thought he was a roster bubble guy all along, really wanted to bring him back to the practice squad. And I got my wish. I like his motor. I like his ability to get, I'm a broken record with Cameron Goode. His ability to get down the line of scrimmage and track down a ball carrier that's running away from him. He did it in Cal. He did it in a couple of preseason games. I really like that. He showed some ability to get to the quarterback in both preseason and in training camp as well. Obviously, as a 7th rounder, needs some more time to develop, maybe earn a shot on the 53 next year if they continue to keep him around. But obviously, if he can hang on the practice squad, he'll likely get a shot next year as well. Porter Gustin, another guy that flashed during training camp, during the preseason, routinely reported around the quarterback throughout training camp. I had pretty low expectations for Porter Gustin right when he was originally signed. I'm like, well, if you got this roster spot, you got a weak offensive line, why aren't you spending the roster spot there? But Porter Gustin exceeded my expectations rather quickly once he was brought on, but he is yet another developmental piece for 2023. The team is pretty set at edge rush right now following that Trey Flowers signing, especially when Andrew Van Ginkel does return to 100% health as well from that appendix surgery. So a call up this year for Gustin would likely mean that the team is suffering quite a few injuries. So hopefully, honestly, I love Porter Gustin, but hopefully we don't see his name called up. Let's go to a running back, Quandary White. Pretty quiet, relatively speaking, throughout the offseason until that last preseason game. 4 carries for 26 yards. But what I liked in that game was he showed patience and he showed burst in that zone blocking scheme. Plus his carries, if you paid attention to the game flow, they all came when that game was in hand and Philadelphia knew that the run was coming. And he still averaged 6.5 yards per carry. So there's a running back that got added to the practice squad. And a lineman got added as well. Larnel Coleman to the practice squad. He got a ton of reps in both training camp and those first 2 preseason games with the ones when Teron Armstead was out. It wasn't essentially until that final preseason game when he sort of took a back seat to Greg Little at starting left tackle. Still not a guy, in my opinion, that I want starting for this team on Sundays. But hey, the team must have saw enough to continue to invest, and he is now on the Dolphins practice squad. And then Kahlin Barnes. The Dolphins signed one guy to their practice squad, as of recording this anyways, that wasn't with the team originally in camp, and that was Kahlin Barnes. He was a 7th rounder out of Baylor, drafted by the Carolina Panthers, most known for his 40-yard dash time at the NFL Combine. He clocked a 4.23, which ended up being the fastest of all of the players that were invited to this last year's Combine. He actually started out as a wide receiver at Baylor and then switched over to cornerback his sophomore year. Ended up playing 28 games at cornerback, total 3 interceptions, one conveniently each year, all three his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. Sounds like the plan originally from Carolina was that they were going to release him and then try to keep him on the practice squad. And obviously that didn't work out. But the skinny on him is that the technique, obviously with converting from wide receiver, the technique of the position, the nuances of the position aren't quite there yet. He's a guy that's simply relying on that speed, on that athleticism. So a practice squad signing, regardless of where this guy was going to go, makes perfect sense. But that's the signings that the Dolphins did have for today. We also have news that Benito Jones, who was with the Dolphins in camp, was actually claimed by the Detroit Lions. Sony Michel signed with the LA Chargers. And Kellen, Diesch, who we all kind of thought would end up on this team's practice squad, kind of pulled what we saw here from Kahlin Barnes as well. Rather than signing with the Dolphins practice squad, was signed to the Chicago Bears practice squad. And a real quick side note as well, because just before I started recording today's video, got the notification that 49ers released running back Trey Sermon. And I'm going to not make a prediction or anything, but I'm going to tell you that's a name to keep an eye on. Obviously, Mike McDaniel, familiar with him during their time in San Francisco. I also believe there was a report that McDaniel was involved in the selection. I don't know all of that. I'll have to do a little bit more homework on that. But definitely a player that is familiar with McDaniel and vice versa. So keep your eye on that. But that's it for today. If there are any other signings that occur throughout the night, I will be sure to drop them in the comments below. But your comments as well, drop those as well on everything that happened from today in regards to the practice squad signings, and we will take it from there. But until next time, Miami Dolphins fans, fins up.